Jiwon stood by the massive window of the Galactic Unity Station, watching stars drift past in the endless dark. She held a glass of water in her hand, the ice cubes melting slowly in the low gravity. Around her, dozens of alien species talked and laughed in the grand conference hall. Some looked like walking trees, others floated like clouds of colored gas. A few had too many legs to count. She was tired. 3 weeks of meetings had worn her down. The aliens asked the same questions over and over. How did humans build their ships? What resources did Earth have? Why did humans fight so many wars? Jiwon answered patiently each time, though she wanted to scream. She was an engineer, not a diplomat. She fixed machines, not political problems. Ambassador Min Seo walked past, giving Jiwon a small nod. The older woman looked elegant in her formal suit, her gray hair pulled back tight. She had been doing this job for 20 years. Jiwon had only been here for 3 weeks and she already felt exhausted. A shadow fell over her. Jiwon looked up and saw 3 figures approaching. They were Velkari warriors, each one standing over 7 feet tall. Their scales looked like polished black stone, and strange glowing patterns ran across their skin. The one in front had marks that glowed red. That meant he was angry or excited. Jiwon had studied the Velkari body language before coming here. The leader stopped in front of her. His name was Tae-hyun. Jiwon remembered him from the opening ceremony. He was some kind of war hero among his people. He had won many battles and killed many enemies. The Velkari loved him. Other species respected him, or feared him. Tae-hyun looked down at Jiwon with yellow eyes. His mouth curved into what might have been a smile. It looked more like a threat. So, Tae-hyun said, his voice deep and rough. The little human thinks she can teach the galaxy something new. Jiwon took a sip of her water. She kept her face calm. I just talk about what I know. Engineering, technology. Nothing special. Nothing special, Tae-hyun repeated. He laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Yes, that is what humans are. Nothing special. You barely learned to fly between stars 50 years ago. My people have been traveling the galaxy for 10,000 years. The other 2 Velkari warriors laughed with him. Jiwon noticed other aliens turning to watch. The room grew quieter. People wanted to see what would happen. We are learning, Jiwon said. She kept her voice level. Everyone starts somewhere. Learning, Tae-hyun said. He stepped closer. Jiwon could smell something sharp and chemical coming from him. Tell me, human, does your species still kill each other over pieces of land, over resources, over different beliefs? Jiwon felt her jaw tighten. Sometimes we are working on it. Working on it, Tae-hyun said. How primitive. My people ended such conflicts 5,000 years ago. We are united, strong, superior. He leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. Your kind is weak, divided, fragile. One disease could wipe you out. One war, one mistake. You should be grateful we allow you to stand in the same room as your betters. The room was completely silent now. Jiwon saw Ambassador Min Seo across the hall, her eyes wide with alarm. The ambassador shook her head slightly. A warning. Do not respond. Do not make this worse. Jiwon looked at Tae-hyun. She thought about her childhood in Seoul. The city had been destroyed twice in wars before she was born. Her grandparents had rebuilt it with their own hands. Her parents had worked in factories making parts for the first human starships. She had grown up in a tiny apartment, studying by candlelight when the power went out, which was often. She thought about every insult she had heard since arriving at the station. The whispers, the looks, the other species treating humans like children, like pets, like something amusing but ultimately worthless. Jiwon set down her glass carefully. She looked up at Tae-hyun. You think we are weak? I know you are weak, Tae-hyun said. Jiwon moved. She did not think about it. Her body simply acted. Her right hand formed a fist. Her arm pulled back. Her hips rotated. Her shoulder drove forward. Every muscle in her body worked together, just like she had learned in the self-defense classes back home. Her fist connected with Tae-hyun's jaw. The sound was loud in the quiet room, a sharp crack like breaking wood. Tae-hyun's head snapped to the side. His glowing patterns flared bright white. His whole body went rigid. Then he stumbled backward, crashing into a table. Glasses and plates fell to the floor, shattering. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They all stared at the Velkari warrior lying on the ground, green blood dripping from his mouth. His jaw hung at a wrong angle. Then chaos erupted. Aliens started shouting. Security drones flew into the room, their lights flashing red. The 2 other Velkari warriors rushed to Tae-hyun's side. Ambassador Min Seo ran toward Ji-won, her face pale. Ji-won looked at her hand. Her knuckles were red but not bleeding, nothing broken. She had hit harder during training. This had been a controlled punch, measured and precise. Human security guards surrounded her. They wore the blue uniforms of Earth's Diplomatic Protection Service. One of them, a woman named Hye-jin, gently took Ji-won's arm. "We need to get you out of here," Hye-jin said quietly. Ji-won nodded. She let them lead her toward the exit. As she walked, she passed a young Velkari standing near a pillar. He was smaller than the warriors, dressed in the simple robes of a scientist. His name tag said Kyung-soo. Their eyes met for just a moment. Kyung-soo was not angry. He was not disgusted. He looked curious, fascinated even. Then Ji-won was through the door and into the corridor beyond. Behind her, she could hear Tae-hyun making strange choking sounds. Medical teams were arriving. Aliens were arguing in a dozen different languages. Ambassador Min Seo caught up with them. She grabbed Ji-won's shoulder and spun her around. "What were you thinking?" Min Seo demanded. Her voice shook with fury and fear. "Do you have any idea what you have done? You just assaulted a council delegate, a Velkari war hero. They could expel humanity from the council. They could declare war." Ji-won met her eyes. "He called us weak." "So you proved him right by acting like a barbarian?" "No," Ji-won said. Her voice was calm now, steady. "I proved him wrong. We are not weak. We are not fragile. And we will not be disrespected." Min Seo stared at her. For a moment, the ambassador looked like she might start yelling again. Then something changed in her expression. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "You are confined to quarters," Min Seo said. "Do not leave. Do not talk to anyone. Do not make this worse than it already is." The guards escorted Ji-won to the human section of the station. Her room was small but comfortable. She sat on the bed and looked at her hand again. Still red, starting to swell a little. She thought about what would happen next. A trial, probably. Maybe imprisonment. Maybe she would be sent back to Earth in disgrace. But she did not regret it. Not for a second. Tae-hyun had needed to learn something. The whole galaxy had needed to learn something. Humans were not weak. They were survivors. They were fighters, and they would not bow down to anyone. The medical bay of the Galactic Unity Station smelled like chemicals and something else, something sharp and bitter. Kyung-soo stood in front of a large display screen, studying the scans of Tae-hyun's injuries. Behind him, 3 other Velkari scientists whispered to each other. They sounded worried. Tae-hyun lay on a medical table across the room. His jaw had been repaired by the station's advanced healing machines, but the damage had been severe. The lower part of his face was still swollen. He breathed through a tube. His eyes were closed, but Kyung-soo knew he was awake. The monitors showed his brain activity. Tae-hyun was thinking, processing what had happened to him. Kyung-soo turned back to the display. The data made no sense. Or rather, it made perfect sense but contradicted everything he thought he knew about humans. He touched the screen, bringing up an image of the human woman's hand. Ji-won. That was her name. The scan had been taken immediately after the incident. Her knuckles showed minor inflammation. No broken bones. No torn ligaments. No fractures of any kind. "How is this possible?" one of the other scientists asked. Her name was Suwa. She was older than Kyung-soo, more experienced. She hit him hard enough to break his jaw. Her hand should be destroyed. Look at the bone density readings, Kyung-soo said. He pulled up another chart. Human bones are much denser than we thought. Their skeleton is built to withstand impacts. They evolved on a high-gravity world. Earth's gravity is only 1.0, Sua said. That is barely above average. The galactic average is 0.7, Kyung-soo corrected. Earth's gravity is 40% higher than what most species experience. For a human, living here on this station must feel like floating. He brought up more data. Charts and graphs filled the screen. Their muscles are different too. Look at this. Human muscle fibers are designed for explosive power. They can generate extreme force in very short bursts. Perfect for hunting. Perfect for fighting. Sua moved closer to the screen. She studied the information silently. Finally, she said, "What about her mental state? Was she afraid, angry?" Kyung-soo pulled up the neurological scans. This is the strange part. Her adrenaline levels were elevated, but not extremely. Her heart rate increased only slightly. Her brain patterns show she was calm, focused. She was not in a rage. She was in complete control. That cannot be right, another scientist said. No one strikes with that much force while calm. Humans can, Kyung-soo said. He felt a chill run through his body. They train for this. They practice violence the way we practice science. It is part of their culture, part of their history. He opened a file on human history. Images appeared on the screen. Warriors in metal armor, soldiers with primitive weapons. Pictures of destroyed cities. Humans fighting humans. Humans fighting nature. Humans fighting to survive in every environment imaginable. They have been fighting for their entire existence, Kyung-soo said quietly. Not just wars, everything. Their planet tried to kill them constantly, predators, diseases, climate changes. They survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts. They did not just survive, they thrived. Sua looked at Taehyun's sleeping form. What do we tell the High Command? The truth, Kyung-soo said. We underestimated them. Later that day, Kyung-soo presented his findings to the Velkari High Command via holographic transmission. 5 generals appeared as shimmering images around him. They listened in silence as he explained the data. When he finished, one of the generals spoke. His name was Dongwoo, and he was the oldest of them all. You are saying this human female is exceptionally strong for her species? No, Kyung-soo said. I am saying she is average, maybe even below average. Human strength varies greatly, but our initial assessments were completely wrong. We compared them to species from low-gravity worlds. We should have compared them to heavy world species. Preposterous, another general said. They have only had space travel for 50 years. They are primitive. Their technology is primitive, Kyung-soo agreed, but their biology is not. In terms of physical capability, they may be among the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The generals argued among themselves. Some refused to believe it. Others demanded more testing. Dongwoo stayed quiet, thinking. Finally, Dongwoo raised his hand. The others fell silent. What do you recommend, Scientist Kyung-soo? A full study, Kyung-soo said. We need to understand human capabilities completely. Physical, mental, cultural. If we continue to underestimate them, there will be more incidents like this one. Or worse. Dongwoo nodded slowly. Very well. Begin your study. And Kyung-soo, be thorough. The council will want answers. The transmission ended. Kyung-soo stood alone in the laboratory. He looked at the data one more time. There was something else he had noticed but not mentioned to the generals. Something that disturbed him deeply. When Ji-won had punched Taehyun, she had pulled the blow. The force calculations showed she could have hit much harder. She could have killed him easily, but she had controlled her strength, measuring it precisely to cause pain and damage without being lethal. That meant she was not just strong. She was disciplined, trained, dangerous in a way that went beyond simple physical power. In the human quarters, Ji-won sat on her bed. She had been confined here for 6 hours now. No one had come to question her. No one had told her what would happen next. She assumed she was waiting for some kind of trial. The door chimed. Ambassador Minseo entered, her face tired and lined with stress. They want to study you, Minseo said without greeting. Ji-won looked up. Study me? The Velkari scientists. They are running tests on Taehyun's injuries. They cannot understand how you hurt him so badly without injuring yourself. Minseo sat down in the room's only chair. They are starting to realize they made a mistake about us. What kind of mistake? They thought we were weak, fragile, easy to ignore or push around. Minseo smiled, but it was not a happy smile. You showed them otherwise. Now they want to know what else they got wrong. Are they going to charge me? Probably. The Valkyrie are demanding it, but other species are hesitant. Some of them are pleased to see the Valkyrie taken down a level. The Valkyrie have been arrogant for too long. Minseo leaned forward. This is bigger than you now, Jiwan. This is about how the galaxy sees humanity. We need to be smart about what comes next. I am not sorry, Jiwan said. He needed to learn. I know, Minseo said. And between you and me, I am glad you hit him. But now we have to deal with the consequences. Across the station, in a bar frequented by traders and merchants, word of the incident spread like fire. A human had injured a Valkyrie warrior with her bare hand. The stories grew with each telling. Some said she had broken his jaw in 3 places. Others said she had knocked him unconscious. A few claimed she had thrown him across the room. None of the stories were completely accurate, but all of them had the same message. Humans were more dangerous than anyone realized. Merchants began calculating. If humans were this strong, they could be valuable as security, as guards, as enforcers. The market for human labor might be about to explode. Politicians began worrying. If humans were this strong, they could be a threat. Treaties might need to be reconsidered. Defensive plans might need to be updated. Scientists began questioning. If humans were this strong, what else had they missed? What other assumptions about this young species were wrong? In her small room, Jiwan lay down on her bed. Her hand still hurt a little. She flexed her fingers, testing them. Everything worked fine. She had been in worse fights back on Earth. This was nothing. But she knew the galaxy would not see it that way. For them, this was everything. This was the moment humanity stopped being ignored. She just hoped it would not turn into something worse. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. Rows of seats rose up in circles, each level holding representatives from different species. The ceiling was so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. In the center of it all stood Jiwan, feeling very small. She wore a simple black suit. Her hair was pulled back. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Ambassador Minseo stood to her right. To her left was a floating sphere of light called Dawn. Dawn was an artificial intelligence, one of the most advanced computers humanity had ever built. She would serve as Jiwan's legal defender. Hundreds of aliens watched from the seats above. Some looked curious. Some looked angry. Many looked like they just wanted this to be over, so they could go back to their regular business. At a raised platform sat the council judges. There were 7 of them, each from a different major species. In the middle sat Elder Bora, a crystalline being whose body glowed with soft blue light. She would lead the proceedings. Elder Bora's voice echoed through the chamber. We are here to address the incident between Engineer Jiwan of Earth and Warrior Tae-hyun of the Valkyrie Empire. The charges are assault on a council delegate, endangerment of diplomatic relations, and use of excessive force. The prosecution may begin. A Valkyrie lawyer stepped forward. His name was Yunho. He was older than most Valkyrie Jiwan had seen. His scales faded to gray. But his eyes were sharp and his voice was clear. Honored judges, Yunho began. The facts are simple. Warrior Tae-hyun spoke to Engineer Jiwan. His words may have been harsh, but they were only words. She responded with violence. She broke his jaw. She humiliated a decorated war hero. This is unacceptable behavior for a council delegate. Yunho brought up a holographic display. It showed security footage of the incident. Jiwan watched herself punch Tae-hyun, watched him fall. The video played 3 times. You can see, Yunho continued, that she attacked without warning, without provocation. This was not self-defense. This was assault. Pure and simple. He went on for several minutes. He talked about diplomatic protocol, about respect between species, about how violence had no place in civilized discourse. Jiwan listened but did not react. She had expected all of this. When Yunho finished, Elder Bora turned to Dawn. The defense may respond. Dawn floated forward. The sphere of light pulsed gently as she spoke. Her voice had no emotion, no accent. It was perfectly neutral. Honored judges, Dawn said. The prosecution presents incomplete information. Let us examine the full context. Warrior Tae-hyun approaches Engineer Jiwan. He is 7 feet tall. She is 5 feet 6 inches. He weighs 320 pounds. She weighs 140 pounds. He enters her personal space. By Velkari law, this constitutes a physical threat. Dawn pulled up the video again. This time it showed more. It showed Taehyun leaning over Jiwon, his face close to hers. It showed his body language, aggressive and intimidating. By Velkari law, Dawn continued, Engineer Jiwon was within her rights to defend herself. She used a single strike, non-lethal, controlled. Had she wished to cause serious harm, she could have done far more damage. Yoonho interrupted. She broke his jaw. Yes, Dawn said calmly. Because humans are physically stronger than the Velkari anticipated. This is a biological fact, not a crime. The chamber erupted with noise. Aliens shouted at each other in dozens of languages. The idea that humans could be stronger than Velkari was ridiculous to many of them. Elder Bora raised one crystal in hand. Silence fell. The defense will provide evidence for this claim. Of course, Dawn said. I call forward Hyunwoo of Earth. A door opened. A human man walked out. Hyunwoo was in his 40s, stocky and muscular. He wore the gray coveralls of a dock worker. He looked nervous, his eyes darting around the massive chamber. Hyunwoo, Dawn said. Please state your occupation. I load cargo, Hyunwoo said. His voice echoed strangely. On ships. At the docking bay. Are you a soldier? No. Have you received special physical training? No, I just work. A machine was wheeled into the center of the chamber. It was a grip strength tester, a device used to measure hand strength. The display showed it was calibrated for Velkari warriors. Please demonstrate your grip strength, Dawn said. Hyunwoo walked to the machine. He took the handle in his right hand and squeezed. The display began climbing. 200, 300, 400, 450. The Velkari average, the numbers kept climbing. 500, 550, 600. Hyunwoo let go. He shrugged apologetically. Is that good? The chamber was completely silent. Every alien stared at the display. 600, a full third stronger than the average Velkari warrior, and this was just a dock worker. A normal human doing a normal job. Dawn spoke into the silence. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world. Their bones are denser. Their muscles are more efficient. This is not exceptional strength for a human. This is average. Engineer Jiwon did not assault warrior Taehyun. She defended herself using her natural capabilities. To punish her for this is to punish her for being human. Yoonho tried to recover. Even if humans are stronger than expected, that does not excuse violence. She could have walked away. She could have called for help. She chose to strike. In the moment of threat, Dawn said, she responded as her biology and training dictated. Warrior Taehyun initiated the confrontation. He made threats. He invaded her space. Under the laws of most species in this council, including Velkari law, her response was justified. The judges conferred among themselves. Their conversation was private, shielded by technology. Jiwon stood and waited. She felt strangely calm. Whatever happened now was out of her hands. After 10 minutes, Elder Bora spoke. We have reached a decision. The charges against Engineer Jiwon are dismissed. She acted in self-defense according to established legal principles. However, this incident has revealed a significant gap in our understanding of human physiology and capabilities. Bora's light grew brighter. Therefore, the Council mandates a comprehensive study of human biology, psychology, and culture. Until this study is complete, humans will be reclassified from developing species to high-risk species. This classification will grant them additional protections but also additional scrutiny. The chamber exploded with noise again. Some aliens cheered. Others protested. The Velkari delegation sat in angry silence. Jiwon looked at Ambassador Minseo. The older woman's face showed relief mixed with concern. They had won, but at a price. Humanity was no longer invisible, no longer ignored. Everyone in the galaxy was now watching them. As they left the chamber, Jiwon saw Taehyun in the crowd. His jaw was healed, but he looked different, smaller somehow. Their eyes met for a moment. He looked away first. Outside the chamber, reporters from a dozen species swarmed them. They shouted questions in many languages. Ambassador Minseo handled them skillfully, giving careful answers that said little. Jiwon stayed quiet. She had said enough with her fist. Now it was time for others to do the talking. But as they walked back to the human quarters, she wondered what would come next. The trial was over. The verdict was in. Humanity was no longer weak in the galaxy's eyes. But that brought new dangers, new expectations, new challenges. She had punched one warrior and changed everything. Now they would all have to live with the consequences. 6 months passed. Kyung-soo had barely slept during that time. The research project had consumed his life. Every day brought new discoveries about humans. Every discovery was more unsettling than the last. He sat in his laboratory aboard the Unity station, surrounded by data screens, charts, graphs, medical scans, historical records, video footage. All of it painted the same picture. Humans were not what anyone had thought they were. Kyung-soo pulled up a file on Earth itself. The planet looked beautiful from space, blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. But the data told a different story. Earth's gravity was 40% higher than the galactic average. Its atmosphere was thick with oxygen, a highly reactive element. The temperature swung wildly between seasons. The planet had massive storms, earthquakes, volcanoes. It had been hit by asteroids multiple times. Ice ages had covered much of the surface repeatedly. By galactic standards, Earth was a death world. Most species would struggle to survive there. Yet humans had not just survived. They had thrived. They had spread to every part of the planet, from frozen poles to burning deserts, from high mountains to deep ocean floors. Kyung-soo opened another file. This one showed Earth's predators: lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks. Hundreds of species that could kill a human easily. Yet humans had survived alongside them, had learned to hunt them, had driven many to near extinction. He found records of human hunting techniques. Persistence hunting, they called it. Humans would chase prey for hours, sometimes for days. The prey would run until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then the humans would simply walk up and kill it. No other species in the galaxy hunted this way. It required too much stamina, too much determination. The biochemistry data was equally disturbing. Humans had a chemical called adrenaline. When threatened, their bodies would flood with it. This increased their strength, suppressed their pain, made them faster, stronger, more aggressive. They could perform incredible feats while in this state, lifting enormous weights, fighting despite terrible injuries, continuing long after they should have collapsed. Kyung-soo had read stories from human history. Soldiers fighting with broken bones, mothers lifting vehicles off trapped children, warriors continuing to fight with multiple wounds. These were not myths. They were documented facts. Then there was human psychology. Humans formed emotional bonds with almost anything. Other humans, obviously, but also animals, machines, even inanimate objects. They would name their ships, their vehicles, their weapons. They would grieve when these things were lost. This pack bonding made them fiercely loyal. A human who believed their pack was threatened would fight with suicidal intensity. Kyung-soo had found records of humans sacrificing themselves to save others, not just family, not just close friends, sometimes complete strangers. The final piece was human culture. War. Humans had been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. Thousands of years of constant conflict. They had developed incredibly sophisticated weapons and tactics. They had written countless books on strategy and combat. They had entire philosophies built around warfare. Other species fought wars too. But human warfare was different. It was total. It was ruthless. They would burn entire cities, destroy whole regions. They had even developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Kyung-soo assembled his findings into a report. When he finished, he read it through once. Then again, the conclusion was inescapable. Humans were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Not because of their technology, not because of their ships or weapons, but because of what they were, what they had always been. He sent the report to the Galactic Council. Then he prepared to present it in person. The presentation took place in a secure chamber. Only senior officials attended. Kyung-soo stood before them and laid out everything he had learned. When he finished, the room was silent. Finally, one of the judges spoke. "You are saying humans are a threat to galactic security?" "I am saying humans are survivors," Kyung-soo replied. "They cannot be defeated by harsh conditions. They cannot be intimidated by stronger opponents. They do not give up. Ever. If we treat them as enemies, they will become the most dangerous enemies imaginable. What do you recommend? Another judge asked. Treat them as equals, Kyung-soo said. Respect them. Work with them. Because if we make them our enemies, we will regret it. On the Velkari homeworld, Tae-hyun watched the presentation via secure transmission. He had been given access because of his involvement in the original incident. He watched Kyung-soo explain human capabilities, watched the data scroll past. When it ended, Tae-hyun sat in darkness. His jaw was fully healed now, but the humiliation remained. He had called humans weak, had mocked them, and one small human woman had proven him completely wrong, but it was more than that. According to Kyung-soo's data, Ji-won had held back. She could have killed him. She had chosen not to. She had measured her strike precisely to hurt but not kill. That meant she was not just strong. She was skilled, controlled, dangerous in ways he had not imagined. Tae-hyun made a decision. In Valkyrie culture, there was a way to restore honor after a defeat. A formal challenge, a duel. He would challenge Ji-won. He would prove himself, or die trying. The challenge was delivered through official channels. Ji-won received it in her quarters. She read it twice. Then she showed it to Ambassador Minseo. You do not have to accept, Minseo said. This is a Valkyrie tradition. It does not apply to humans. If I refuse, they will say humans are cowards, Ji-won replied. They will say I was lucky the first time, that I cannot fight fairly. Maybe that is better than risking your life. Ji-won looked at the challenge again. He is trying to prove something. To himself and to his people. I understand that. I accept. The duel was scheduled for 2 weeks later. It would take place in a neutral arena. The rules were simple. No weapons, no armor. Fight until one side surrendered or could not continue. It would be broadcast across the galaxy. Ji-won spent those 2 weeks training. She had always kept herself in good shape. But now she pushed harder. She ran, she lifted weights. She practiced her strikes on training dummies. She studied recordings of Valkyrie fighting techniques. Tae-hyun prepared as well. He had fought hundreds of times before, but never against a human. He studied everything he could find about human combat. He learned about their preference for grappling, their tendency to target joints and weak points, their incredible endurance. The day of the duel arrived. The arena was packed with spectators. Millions more watched via broadcast. Ji-won entered from one side. Tae-hyun entered from the other. They met in the center. I will restore my honor, Tae-hyun said. You can try, Ji-won replied. A bell rang. The fight began. Tae-hyun moved first. He was fast for his size. His fist came at Ji-won's head. She ducked. His second strike came at her ribs. She blocked it, felt the impact through her arms. He was strong, much stronger than before. He had trained specifically for this. Ji-won fought back. She aimed for his joints, his knees, his elbows, places where even a Valkyrie was vulnerable. Tae-hyun blocked most of her strikes, but not all. The fight went on. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Both fighters were bleeding now. Both were breathing hard, but neither would stop. Tae-hyun landed a solid hit to Ji-won's ribs. She felt something crack. Pain flooded through her. But her adrenaline was flowing now. The pain became distant, manageable. She kept fighting. She saw an opening. Tae-hyun was tiring. His movements were slower. She feinted left, then struck right. Her fist connected with his jaw again, the same place as before. He staggered. She pressed forward. An uppercut to his chin. His eyes rolled back. Tae-hyun fell. He did not get up. Ji-won stood over him. Her ribs screamed with pain. Her face was swelling. Blood dripped from her nose. But she was standing. She had won. Medics rushed in. Ji-won knelt beside Tae-hyun. His eyes were open now. He looked at her with something like respect. You are not weak, Ji-won said quietly. But neither are we. Remember that. Tae-hyun nodded slightly before the medics took him away. Ji-won stood and walked out of the arena. The crowd was silent. They had just witnessed something impossible. A human defeating a Valkyrie warrior twice. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. 2 years had changed everything. Ji-won stood on the bridge of the Earth warship Thunder, watching the view screen as alien vessels moved in formation around them. Valkyrie destroyers, Luminar scouts, Hive collective cruisers, all of them working together. all of them following human coordination. It still felt strange sometimes. 2 years ago, humans had been nobodies in galactic politics. Now they were essential. Now everyone wanted to work with them, or at least nobody wanted to work against them. The change had happened faster than anyone expected. After the duel, after Jiwan's second victory over Taihyun, something shifted in the galaxy. Species that had ignored humans suddenly wanted to hire them. Human security companies formed overnight. Human mercenaries found work across 100 systems. Human engineers were sought after for their practical, hands-on approach to problems. Earth's economy had boomed. Trade routes that once bypassed human space now went through it. The Council had granted humanity several new seats. Ambassador Minseo had been promoted to lead the entire human diplomatic corps. She spent her days negotiating treaties and trade agreements. Jiwan had been given a new title, Galactic Combat Liaison. It was a fancy name for a simple job. She taught other species about human fighting techniques. She trained human soldiers to work alongside alien forces. She served as a living reminder of what humans could do. She still worked as an engineer when she could. That was her real passion. But the galaxy had other plans for her. She was famous now. Children on Earth knew her name. Aliens across the galaxy had seen footage of her fights. She was a symbol. She had no choice but to live up to it. A figure appeared beside her on the bridge. Taehyun. He wore the uniform of a cultural ambassador now. After his second defeat, he had requested assignment to Earth. He had wanted to understand humans, to learn from them, to figure out how such a young species could be so formidable. He had spent a year on Earth, in Seoul mostly. He had lived in the same neighborhood where Jiwan grew up. He had seen the war memorials, the rebuilt cities, the museums dedicated to human survival and resilience. He had talked to veterans, to factory workers, to ordinary people who had lived through extraordinary times that had changed him. The arrogance was gone. He still had pride, but it was different now. It was earned pride, not inherited pride. He and Jiwan had become something like friends. They trained together sometimes. They argued about tactics and strategy. They had developed a mutual respect. "The fleet is ready," Taehyun said. His English had improved greatly. He spoke it with only a slight accent now. Jiwan nodded. "Good. We will need everyone at their best." The Devourer swarm had appeared 6 months ago. Nobody knew where they came from. They were a hive mind species, millions of organisms acting as one. They consumed everything in their path, planets, ships, stations. They broke down matter and used it to build more of themselves. The Velkari had tried to stop them first. They had sent their best fleets. Those fleets had been destroyed. The Luminar Commonwealth had tried next. Same result. The Devourer swarm kept coming, kept growing, kept consuming. The Galactic Council had finally admitted they needed help. They had turned to humanity, the species that everyone used to mock, the species that everyone now feared. Ambassador Minseo entered the bridge. She looked tired. She had been coordinating with a dozen different species, trying to organize a unified response. It was like herding cats, she had said. Except the cats all hated each other and some of them could destroy planets. "The Council is waiting for your assessment," Minseo said to G1. G1 pulled up tactical displays. The Devourer swarm's fleet filled the screen. Thousands of organic ships, maybe tens of thousands. They moved in perfect coordination. No individual thought, no fear, no mercy. "They outnumber us," G1 said. "By a lot. 10 to 1 at least. Maybe more. Can we win?" Minseo asked. G1 studied the display. She thought about human history. All the times humans had faced impossible odds. All the times they had been outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded, and all the times they had found a way to win anyway. "Maybe," she said, "if everyone does exactly what they are supposed to do. If we get lucky. If we are willing to pay the price." "And what price?" Taehyun asked. "Ships, lives, maybe entire fleets." Jiwan looked at him. "This will not be clean. This will not be easy. People will die. A lot of people." Taehyun met her eyes. "That is what war is." "Yes," Jiwan agreed. "And humans know war very well." She opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. Her face appeared on screens across hundreds of ships. Thousands of aliens looked at her, waiting, wondering if this human could really lead them. "This is Jiwan," she said. "You all know who I am. You know what humans can do. Today, you are going to see why we survived on our brutal planet, why we never gave up, why we never stopped fighting. She paused. The devourer swarm thinks we are just food, just resources to be consumed. They are wrong. We are survivors, all of us. Every species in this fleet fought their way to the stars. We will not let some mindless swarm erase what we built. Another pause. The plan is simple. We hit them hard. We hit them fast. We do not stop. We do not retreat. We push forward until either they break or we do. And humans do not break. She looked at the tactical display one more time. The devourer swarm was getting closer. Less than an hour until contact. All ships, G1 said. Prepare for battle. And remember, we are not fighting to survive. We are fighting to win. She closed the channel. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Weapons charging, shields activating, engines warming up. Every ship in the fleet was doing the same. Taehyun checked his console. Their forward scouts have detected us. They are adjusting formation. Good, Ji-won said. Let them adjust. Let them think they can predict us. Ambassador Min Seo stood near the back of the bridge. She was not military. This was not her area, but she stayed anyway. To witness, to remember, to report back if anyone survived. The devourer swarm filled the view screen now, a wall of organic ships, writhing, pulsing, hungry. Behind them, somewhere in the dark, were the planets they had already consumed. Entire civilizations erased, turned into raw materials for more ships. 30 seconds to weapons range, the tactical officer called out. Ji-won felt her heart beating faster, not from fear, from excitement, from anticipation. This was what she was made for. What all humans were made for. Not peace, not comfort, but struggle, challenge, survival against impossible odds. 20 seconds. She thought about Earth, about Seoul, about the rebuilt cities and the memorials to the dead, about every human who had fought and died so that others could live. They had never given up, never surrendered, never accepted defeat. 10 seconds. Taehyun glanced at her. What do humans do when outnumbered? Ji-won smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator, of a survivor, of someone who had never lost a fight that mattered. We fight anyway, she said. 5 seconds. All ships, Ji-won commanded. Fire. The fleet opened fire. Hundreds of weapons lit up the darkness. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic rounds. All of it hammering into the devourer swarm's front lines. The swarm fired back. Organic projectiles, acid sprays, bioweapons that could eat through metal. The battle had begun. Ji-won watched the tactical display. Ships were dying on both sides, but the fleet was holding formation. Following the plan, pushing forward. She had no idea if they would win. The odds were terrible. The enemy was endless. But humans had faced terrible odds before. They had faced endless enemies before. And they had survived. Not through superior technology, not through greater numbers, but through sheer stubborn refusal to quit. Through determination. Through the simple truth that had defined humanity since the beginning. They were survivors. They were fighters. And they would never, ever give up. The galaxy had learned that lesson twice already. If the devourer swarm had to learn it too, so be it. Ji-won would teach them. Just like she had taught Taehyun. With pain, with blood, with victory earned the hard way, the human way.